I was recently in Cuba.
How was that?
It was layered, I guess. It was a beautiful experience and a beautiful project that I was supporting, and also there are some real dire realities of U.S. imperialism and colonialism that were hard to
witness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that sounds like a whole story.
Definitely. So let me tell you a little bit about Land Based Jawns. So essentially, the work that Land Based Jawns does is to provide land-based education, primarily to Black women, femme, and non-binary folks in Philly. However, we do offer workshops and trainings for people outside of those identities as well. And much of the work that we do is inspired and has been inspired by Octavia Butler's Parables, where, I don't know if you've read them, but in the series, the United States is on the verge of collapse, or is in the middle of collapse, actually. And people are trying to survive. They're trying to figure out what are the strategies to stay alive, and what are the strategies to rebuild their communities, what are the strategies to community healing. So what we do is, the flagship program is something called the Earth Seed Skillshare, and that is a series of workshops, mostly land-based education, on agriculture, carpentry, safety, community safety and self-defense, and land-based living. And each of our workshops in the Skillshare has a tactile focus, right? We're looking at what skills do we need to literally survive and take care of each other. But it also has, all of them have a somatic focus and a somatic therapy focus. So we're also interrogating what it means to radically forgive ourselves and radically forgive others. What does it mean to be body-mind centered in the face of conflict and collapse? And how do we rebuild community? What does that take? What is the mutual accountability and self-love, like different levels of self-work that need to happen in order for us to thrive together? So the Earth Seed Skillshare, like I said, is a flagship program. In present 2026, a lot of our focus is on these preparedness workshops. So emergency planning, community emergency planning, intro to safety and self-defense. We're also doing what's in your go bag or grow bag. That's a very popular one these days. Another workshop we're offering is something called composting grief. And this is actually something that I have been writing about over the past few years as a way to describe and understand my own experience with grief, and how grief is what led to the creation of Land Based Jawns. So in this year, those are the primary offerings that we'll have, in addition to the Skillshare, and most recently added our herbal medicine and different herbal products for self-healing.
That is powerful. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. So you have your own herbal medicine and herbal products as well. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So where do I even begin? Talk to me about your work with Creative Repute. What have we done for you?
Yeah. So when I first had the idea for Land Based Jawns, 6 years ago, it was very clear. The message that came through was clear in terms of what the first offering needed to be, and being that Earth Seed Skillshare. And I realized as I was applying for funding that something that I didn't have that I needed was branding, right? Because when funders are looking at funding you, they want to see, do you have a website? Do you have social media? Do you have a brand? And what is that brand? So I very early on did some research on different graphic design studios in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area. And I knew that I wanted to work with a Black women-owned business if possible. And I can't tell you how I got connected to Creative Repute and Niall, but I'm so grateful that I did. And immediately Niall understood the vision and importance of the work that I was hoping to do, and was on board to help make it a reality. And I know, it was Creative Repute has been such an awesome partner in that regard, because I wasn't just coming like, here are the colors that I want to use here. I was coming more like, spiritually, here's what I feel, right? And I was like, here are the symbols that I want to be incorporated into this brand. Here's the meaning I want people to grasp from it. And working with Creative Repute and Niall, I felt like that came through in a way that might have been a lot harder to explain to other graphic design studios. I think this is every partnership, right? It's not going to be like this. People are not going to understand each other entirely right away. And it's going to take multiple conversations, multiple meetings to sometimes align things. And I find that it was very smooth with Creative Repute. And I remember one time they came up with a list of personas of the types of people who follow us. And I remember one of the co-organizers of Land Based Jawns, we were talking to her like, some of these are applicable, but some of them don't quite feel like they capture who we are and like who our supporters are. So I remember bringing that to the team, and the team was like, oh yeah, you're totally right. Let's go back and expand who it is that is interested in supporting Land Based Jawns. That's the only thing I could think of in terms of like, just multiple conversations required to get to where we wanted to go.
Yeah, no, that's great perspective. You want to hear that there were no challenges, but there were moments where we were able to communicate through any kind of thoughts that we have to grasp as a group. And that's really important to know that our team was able to step into that role and, provide the analysis of who the subscribers were, that list of personas, as well as kind of understand where your co-organizers were standing from, that perspective that they wanted to contribute, and then understanding, more layers of Land Based Jawns. So that's awesome. Thank you.
The other thing I'll say that I think might be helpful is I imagine this is true of many projects. The client has this grandiose vision of what is possible and what they want, not realizing how much that grandiose vision costs. And I find that Creative Repute really worked with me to identify a project scope that met my needs and was within the budget that I had for the work. So I appreciate that, because sometimes you come across folks who want to sell you on something that's really expensive, but you can't afford it. And I think we found like a happy medium and a middle ground of what we could do for the amount of funds that I had to support the project.
And that's a really powerful statement too, because so many companies these days are dealing with just the economic stress overall and how we can stretch our dollars to get more. And we always want to make sure that our clients are well taken care of, that they have all of their expectations met, and that, they get the best bang for the buck, because that's sometimes what they're looking for. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And this year, the goals of Land Based Jawns are to expand our reach in the brand. So how many people know who we are? How many people have heard of Land Based Jawns? How many people are subscribed to our newsletter or our social media account? How are they interacting with us? And how do we get our workshop offerings to the communities, especially as we are undergoing so much change in our society? So those are the short-term goals. The long-term, mid-term, and long-term goals include getting access to land, long-term land where we can host our different workshops, land where we can have a farm, land that can serve as a safe place for people to come, to connect, to be the softest versions of themselves, to heal, and to learn the land-based skills that we know we'll all need in the future. So that's in 5 years, I envision Land Based Jawns expanding to really be a center for refuge for our communities in Philly and beyond.
How did you know it was that we were the right partner once you met with us?
I always get excited when folks are into Afrofuturism, Black sci-fi, Black fantasy world, and I felt that come through in my conversations with Nael. I appreciated that there was this mutual understanding of the importance of radical imagination. And I think I also saw examples on Creative Repute's website of how, like, what projects y'all had been involved in up to then, that really resonated with me. After working with Creative Repute, it was more reasonable and easier for us to obtain funding because we had an image now. And I think there's something powerful in people being able to both see, hear, and feel what it is that you do. And Creative Repute really helped bring to life the words and the story behind Land Based Jawns. One of the things I really appreciate about Creative Repute is how invested they've been in the story and the evolution of Land Based Jawns. I imagine there are relationships with graphic design studios where folks produce the materials and it's like, all right, see you. But I see folks from Creative Repute at Land Based Jawns events. They support the work in different ways, and that is really powerful to me because it's one thing to hear what it is that we do from my mouth, but to actually experience it for yourself, I think adds a layer of depth, and it adds a layer of belief in the work and in the mission of the work.
We grow together, we're supporting each other in different endeavors. Is that what you agree with?
Yeah, I'd say a partner for sure.
One thing we're working on recently is storytelling and storytelling infrastructure. What role does storytelling play in your work today?
It's embedded and embodied in everything that we do. It's what connects people to the work. Is me telling my personal story, but people, also members of the community, telling their story about how they've been impacted by the work. That is the basis of the short film that we just had come out that I'm going to post in a couple of days. And I think moving forward, that is like storytelling, telling our stories is what is going to continue to draw people to the work that we do. And I think, you know, compared to some other organizations, and especially compared to many businesses, I think that is I think that is a strength of ours.
Yes.
Is that we are focused on our collective stories, our collective histories, especially as those stories and histories relate to the spiritual traditions of Black people.
I think that's really key too. Like, there's a shift in what the digital world is producing, and while it's an ever-changing landscape, a lot of our clients are moving to a community-based, storytelling-based narrative. And you just kind of nailed it on the head with what you're saying. You come from that background where it's about oral tradition, it's about telling our stories, it's about, you know, growing in the community through words, and that's powerful.
Yeah, Thank you.
Enjoyed this dialogue? We did too. Follow the Creative Repute Unmistakable Podcast for more powerful and interesting conversations like this one. And don't forget to hit that share button.